Welcome to House of Agents. And now, here's your hosts, Tessa and Ramon.
Welcome back, everyone. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the House of Agents podcast. We're your hosts, Ramon and Tessabella. We are super excited to be here as always. Today, we're talking about a topic that is a fan favorite of ours, and it is all about keeping your finances in order running your real estate business. Now, I will first say that this is a really vast topic. We could go so many different directions with this. Yeah. And the good news is we plan to do just that in future episodes as well. But in this one, we want to give you kind of an overview of like some of the more important pieces from our experience. And of course, from working with thousands of agents, as well as running it for ourselves, some of the basics. And, you know, some of these pieces may sound obvious to you, and others may be things you never heard before. Regardless, I know myself, like I have been very deeply invested in learning about the world of finance for quite some time. It's always fascinated me, especially as a business owner, and then just seeing ways that you can kind of work it to your advantage, manipulate it. Of course, the things not to do. I've made plenty of those mistakes as well. And so all of this is definitely just kind of sharing some of that knowledge with you guys in hopes that you can take pieces of that and run with it. So how are you feeling today?
I feel great. And, as you were talking, you have a saying, which I'm not stealing, but it's called make, manage, and multiply your money, correct?
That is correct. And for the record, this is the ultimate thief of quotes, covers, protein shakes, just about everything else. But he does steal my quotes. So I appreciate the credit on that one.
I'm more like a quote encyclopedia. Like no one's safe. It's not just
no one's safe.
Anyone, you have a good quote, promise you I'm going to remember it and use it. Probably like in the next conversation and act like it was mine.
Literally, we talk and then I hear him on his team meetings and he's like, I just heard this great quote today.
Hey, you got to have fresh content. You got to, say some things different every once in a while. So,
but back to it.
I like that saying a lot because I feel like making the money, right, obviously is its own challenge, but that's not really where the real struggle for real estate agents and people in the industry, it comes from. It really comes from the managed part. Mm-hmm. Everyone gets in because they want to multiply, right? We multiply with real estate investing, we multiply with other things, right? But really the managed part is what I think we want to nail down today and talk about. Yeah, I love that you brought up, our past experiences. I've definitely, just had a big stack of cash, and I mean, not literally, but well, maybe I did once upon a time, but no,
one night.
One long night. No, in a bank account, and you have a business account, and you really don't have any idea what you're doing, but you just know you're sitting on a boatload of money. Mm-hmm. And then you go from there. So I've gone from that, like literally getting my first tax bill and almost crying, and then going from, having a monthly meeting with our CFO and all of our every line item, everything, down to the profitability, down to the cent. And we review it monthly and very in tune. I could tell you what our profitability is any week. There's a lot that goes in between that. So what do you think the first, let's just talk, if you're hearing this for the first time going, okay, they're talking about management money. I know I need to do a better job of this. Mm-hmm. Like, what would you say step one is to getting more clear on your finances?
So I already hate myself for saying this because I know it's so cliche. And personally, every time I hear this, in like a money advice video, it kind of makes me roll my eyes. Ew. So resist the urge if that's you right now. But the mindset around your money really is super important. Yeah. I personally learned this through a lot of the ups and downs of money because I was raised around parents who, well, first of all, we never really had any money. So there was always this major scarcity around it, but then they also had very poor money management skills. And so I had never really had it modeled to me how to treat money and what abundance looks and feels like. And, I don't want it to get too spiritual by any means, but there definitely is something to be said for how you mentally treat your finances because, I came into a point when I first kind of started making a bit of money where I realized that I didn't feel like I deserved to have that money. And so it went away just about as quickly as it came.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until later that I was working with a coach that kind of helped me see that. I was like, subconsciously like resisting it because I didn't feel like I knew how to treat it. It felt almost like wrong that I had it. Like it felt so wrong. So I don't want to spend too much time here, but I do think the mindset around your money is really important because otherwise it's hard to grasp the basics of how to manage it because you don't really know where to go, what to look into. So I'd love to hear from you. I think you, in my opinion, have had a much better like money mindset most of your life, and some of that modeled a bit better for you. So what is your take kind of on like generally how you view money and how people ought to treat it and have that mentality around it?
Well, I think, having some more experience, making money, having a business. I like what you said about mindset. The one thing that I always keep in the back of my head is that buy things that get more valuable over time. And if you separate these different things, like let's just take things that don't get more valuable over time and things that do. So let's talk about the do's first. Like an obvious one is real estate, stocks, blue chip, the market, right? Index funds, whatever. In theory, if you hold horizons long enough, they all
Blue
make
check
money.
Marks.
Yeah, blue check marks, blue chip stocks. And then you can even get into other things. If you like freaking Pokemon cards, or those things, certain ones, right? Rolex watches, certain watches, shoes, cars, right? Like there's all these different things in those categories that actually do get more expensive, that do get more valuable over time. Obviously, we'll just stick with real estate for right now and stocks. But then you look at other things that don't get more valuable. So like there's a threshold of, I always say this, like designer clothes, like the moment you buy it, it's really not worth what you paid for it, right? Brand new cars.
Except them designer bags.
But that's why I said threshold. There's like a threshold where you get to a certain point, and I
just wanted to make sure my Christmas list was not getting affected by that statement.
It's not. No. But then you have like, let's think about the one that probably throws most people for a loop is cash. Cash is something that gets less valuable over time. Make no mistake. It might provide you with temporary safety, but it's really not a mechanism to grow your wealth. It is if you invest in things that make money, but cash alone itself, sitting in a bank account, it's not doing anything. It's losing its value. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The second thing, now bringing it right back down to a real estate agent, is first things first is have a plan to manage your money. Now, I'm going to give you the most basic one that's out there, but this is where agents mess up the most. They commingle their funds. I used to put everything in my business. In my business. Now, I want to give some context here. I went to the bank when I was in 2018, I think. First car loan ever, because before I had bought everything cash. And I had got my first little credit card because I'm like, I don't have any credit. It was like, I'm not kidding. It was like a Discover card with $500. I think $1,000.
Mine was like a credit one, and it like was a dupe of a Capital One.
Yeah. Well, let me put it this way. I had multiple 6 figures in cash. Okay. And I couldn't even get $1,000 on a credit line. I went to the bank and she said, the lady goes, okay, taking all what's your social, what's your date of birth, what's your annual, or what's your monthly income? And I told her, I said, yeah, I mean, anywhere between like 40 and 60. She's like, no, monthly. And I said, yeah, 40, 60. Here, I brought all my pay stubs from my Remax franchise. And she looks at it and goes, God damn. Like, yeah, I was like, damn, all right. But then when I went to apply, they're like, yeah, you're going to need a cosigner. Like, cosign? I would buy this. This is $20,000. Yeah, this is a $20,000 vehicle I'm trying to get a loan for. I can pay this cash. Like, yeah, it doesn't matter. And that was where I first realized that building credit was such a key to my financial portfolio, but such a key to my longevity and financial wealth, all that good stuff. So that was the experience there. But what I also realized is that I didn't have any income. Now they saw all my business income, but Ramon personally made no money because I would put all my money in one bucket, which was my LLC. And I would just spend literally everything out of that and say, yeah, it's real estate related, right?
It's a write-off. And
the reality is you can write off anything you want. However, if you have to argue about it one day, it ain't going to be with anybody else but the IRS. So just keep that in mind. So going back, rewinding all of that, is that having a personal checking account and a personal credit card. You can have a savings account too, but just start with checking and a credit card, and then having a business checking account and a credit card and or a savings account, right? You don't really need one account, but for me, I like to save money for taxes, etc. That concept in actually putting it into play, paying your commissions into your business account and then paying yourself from that account to your personal account, and then not getting in the habit of spending the money that's in the big chunk. Because here's what happens. You go, oh yeah, I get that. Totally. You have $50,000 in one account, then you got 500 in the other. Like you go, oh, well, I can afford it because I have it. No, you can't. Your business can afford it, but you cannot afford it. So what you do is you justify spending more money because you have a big stack in your business account, but the big stack was not meant for that purchase. And the reason why I bring that full circle is because we're going to get to step 2 of this. I don't want to ramble too long on this subject, but it's an important one.
I know, but where's the mindset piece in this? Is there the mindset?
Well, that's the mindset, is having the structure and then knowing that your business is a standalone entity. You are not your business.
Yeah.
Your goal is to become an employee of your business and pay yourself a salary. And we'll talk about all the repercussions of not doing that. But that concept of understanding and separating you and your business and being able to say, when you pull that credit card out, is it a business purchase or is this a personal purchase? If you can't wrap your head around that, you will always have commingled funds and you will have problems getting loans. You'll have problems showing income. And there's a very high probability you have a problem with your taxes.
Yes, that is all very, very true. The structure of it all is very important. I think that the first point you made there too, before all of that piece, you were talking about essentially keeping your money in motion, like not just that it's not a growing asset, keeping that as cash. And I think that that's definitely a really important one for a lot of people, as they think the more cash that they've aligned their bank account with, the better off they are, which of course there's an element of a piece of that, but there's so much power in keeping that money in motion. Second piece is really understanding how to differentiate and treat yourself like an employee of your business when it comes to your finances, and actually structuring it. Well, I shouldn't even say that, but just structuring it in the way that serves your goals and how you're trying to function in life, I think is very, very important. The other big piece that I would say when it comes to your mindset is definitely being aware that there are so many different ways that you can continue to kind of finesse and operate your financial situation depending on what it is that your future goals are. So of course, you're always encouraged to put together a business plan and maybe make a vision and like create all this kind of stuff. There's some fluff in all of that, but in reality, there is also some truth to, do you have certain goals of investing in property or buying a personal property in the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? Do you have goals of investing in other, assets? Do you have goals in paying off debt? Do you have, and knowing those different pieces and where they fall hypothetically in your timeline will definitely also help you with how you plan to structure it, and then how you plan to treat your money. That also will come into play when it comes to, how willing you are to play around with risk and how safe you need to be in those seasons of your life. So I think to sum that up, and we'll move into the more tangible stuff, is just really understanding that your finances will kind of always be an ever evolving, it's kind of a moving target, right? Yep. You're never just saying, I want to make $100,000. You make it and you're just done forever. You're constantly pushing that envelope, and that will also come with the management side of that.
One last thing I'll say on that note, you made a good point about, your risk tolerance and whatever you do. Some of you are going to want to save a lot of money. Others are going to be very, investing heavy. Some are going to fall right in the middle. Completely your preference. There's no right or wrong way. You could put it all in cash. If that's what makes you sleep good and feel great about your family and your well-being, that's all good. Now, is that the way to make the most amount of money? No, but it doesn't matter. So let's just put that out there. But the other side of it is that I think a lot of times you don't save money because you don't feel like you have enough of it. And if there's one mistake that I've made, it's just a habit. It's not even the dollar amount that matters. It's just the habit of saving or reinvesting money. And there's a good saying that I like to use is shavings make a pile. And if I could take my shavings that I've probably blew over the last 5-6 years, it would be a substantial amount of money. And I just want to put that out there because that's one thing I hear a lot. What if I don't have money to invest?
Yeah.
I'm like, you do. You're just not in the habit of investing whatever you have extra.
Yeah. Saving and investing are habits. Like those are very habitual things that should start from day one. So I love that you pointed that out. And I knew it was only a matter of time until that phrase came out.
You know what? No, it's funny. Somebody did tell that was a stolen phrase.
Yes.
I can't earmark exactly when I stole
I believe you heard it from someone within place.
It might have been.
About the paper towels.
It might have been Chris Suarez, yeah.
Yeah, I think.
In Washington,
I think
yeah.
that was the story. Regardless,
Shout out.
another ripped off quote. But moving on, we are talking a lot about managing your finances, and we've already touched on it slightly when it comes to credit. We said it kind of jokingly in Ramon's story that he told there. I've had similar experiences. Also, I must say, getting your first car loan is just horribly challenging. If you don't really have a background in that. I remember I had a similar situation where I had impeccable credit. I had incredible income at the time that was clearly stated. And the gentleman that I was trying to buy a car from told me that just because it was my first car purchase, I also could not purchase a car over a certain value, and I had to get a lower price car first and prove that I could do and all this stuff. I was like, that is insane. So yeah. But we won't go into all of that. But I do really want to talk about credit. I'm personally obsessed with credit. I've become really obsessed with it over the last, I would say, year or two. I went through a time where my credit really tanked due to an unfortunate situation. And I had to go through the process of rebuilding my credit. And in doing so, I learned so much about it. It's now become something I'm able to help other people with, which is exciting and coming soon, that you guys will hear about soon. But in doing so, I learned that there are so many consumer laws that we all have access to that give us so many rights within our credit that a lot of people are not aware of. And those are things like, the ability to dispute just about anything and everything on your credit report. Now, of course, before we go too far down this road, I do want to say that everything that we talk about with credit should always be done the right way. There are so many people that do this, in shady ways. Definitely do not go about it that way. It will only bite you in the tail at the other end of it. So definitely make sure that you're doing things by the book, but there are lots of ways that you can really not only work on your credit, improve it, but then use credit to your advantage. Yeah. So maybe we can drop a couple of things, just kind of the basics around some credit stuff that you've experienced in your own life that has helped you, particularly in your business or personal.
Yeah. I mean, I think honestly, it goes right back down to, if your credit's not great and if your finances aren't great, if your taxes aren't great, it's just getting involved and facing the not greatness, facing it head on and going, okay, here's my problem. Now I need to do something about it. And I think for a lot of real estate agents, they struggle getting loans. And it's not even sometimes you struggle. It's just you don't know what to go fix in order to get it because you've never gone and said, okay, here's my situation. How do I fix it? So that's step number one. Step number two on the credit is I do think downloading some type of tracking app. I mean, your bank usually has a FICO score they can send to you. You can talk a little bit more about what's legit, what's not. But I mean, a tracker would be the first start. But I think they're understanding the basic principles. I thought at first, just being honest, I was oh, for sure, if I had to guess, the more credit cards you had, for sure, you're less credit worthy. That show, I was raised in a household that, used credit, but always paid things cash.
Yeah. We even talked about this the other day,
it's
our parents' generation or that generation, at least in our perspective, was so often don't put things on credit cards, really, pay for it in cash,
right away,
pay it all off. And our generation is so much the opposite of that. Both sides can obviously be a little detrimental to your life at times, but continue.
But it does make sense though when you back it up. You go, okay, yeah. In order for someone to deem me credit worthy, they have to see me utilize credit the right way. Successfully. And I think that was the first I'll stop there. Yeah, that was I get it now. I have to pull out money or pull out credit cards and then go spend the money and then pay them off responsibly, and my credit score will continue. Now, there's a lot of nuances in there. I had a $25 mispayment that dropped my credit score 50 points, 70 points.
I know, those are brutal.
And I was I was literally selling I just forgot. Like I
Yeah.
forgot 25. I had to write a letter actually one time to getting a loan where I had to be like, yep, what happened to this $25 mispayment? Were you in some type of, I was like, no, I literally forgot is what I put on there, and they accepted it.
Yeah.
But point being though, is that, that concept is going to serve you well. And maybe you could talk about more. Okay. So you go get the credit cards, but then how do you make sure they're now working to increase your credit score?
Yeah. So I'm going to do just like a little speed round about a couple of those things that can really help. Feel free to chime in if you have anything to add on any of these. But first things first, definitely, if you don't already have a credit card, get a credit card. Even if you, don't feel like you're in the best financial position at the moment, oftentimes you can always get approved, even if it's for a low limit credit card. There are tons that are catered to people that have bad credit, that have like lower income, all kinds of stuff. So definitely go and find a credit card that you can get. If you absolutely cannot qualify for one, which is virtually impossible these days, but if that is the case, you can also get what's called a secured credit card, which is essentially where I would take $1,000 or even $200 and I'm giving that over. That's securing this credit card. Now I'm treating this card as if it's credit, but it was really me giving myself the credit.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
And even if you have decent credit, those still help.
Yeah, those can always help build your
correct.
credit. So if you are trying to really like go on a hardcore build my credit track, secured ones can always do quite a lot for helping increase that. So get that credit card. If you can get a couple, that is great as well. One thing with credit is, of course, don't treat that as money that you don't have. So we're not just going to go on a feeding frenzy and buy anything and everything, because you do still have to pay
don't cash
credit card.
Amazon cart just yet.
Yeah. So definitely be responsible with that. It can be really easy. Like I've even at times gone and looked at my credit card and I'm like, oh wow, I didn't even realize it like got up that high.
Yeah, story of my life. Yes.
That happens pretty easily. So make sure that you are in the financial position that you can pay for it. I love to immediately, when you get that credit card, set up your auto pay, even if it's just for the minimum, because that at the very least is going to save you from the situation that Ramon talked about, where you miss a payment as small as, $25, and that can be on your credit report. That can make major damage to your credit score.
I'm actually going to do that now. I don't have any of them on.
Oh my gosh.
No, yeah, no. I mean, I literally look at the balances every single day, so I don't miss anything. But.
I mean, most of the time I go in and I make a manual payment, but I have all of my auto pays set up just in the event I forget, something doesn't happen, whatever. Always set up that auto pay. I will also tell you, in a lot of cases, that can benefit you as far as it's not obviously like a total deciding factor, but a lot of places do rank you a little bit higher for having auto pay on, because they see that as like another responsibility metric.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to become a better agent, there's only one place to do it, and that is BAMX.
Everyone tells you what to do, but BAMX shows you how to do it.
Whether it's creating the perfect green screen video, overcoming objections, or creating scroll-stopping captions, BAMX has it.
Click the link below and use the code HOA for 10% off your yearly subscription at checkout.
And it can also help you with getting automatic credit increases. So definitely have those auto pays on. Second thing to note is your payment due dates. So this one is one of the most powerful things to know, in my opinion. Did you know?
Okay.
I know that you know this.
Let's see.
Pretty sure. But did you know that there are actually two important dates when it comes to paying your credit card?
Yes, I did know that. The most important dates.
One is going to be your payment due date.
Yep.
A lot of times you can select that date, or it's going to come pre-assigned when you get that credit card, but you can change that. So either you log back into your credit card and you can change the payment date, or you can call and change the payment date. Pretty easy to do. But there's a second date that most people don't know about, which is their payment or their cycle close date. And a lot of times those dates are different. And so what will happen is, let's just say that your payment due date is on the 15th, but your cycle close date is on the 28th of the month. So you've paid your card almost off in full by the 15th, because you think, oh, I'm killing it, paying it before my due date. But then you've racked up that credit bill again by the time your cycle close date is. So now instead of showing credit utilization at like less than 10%, it's showing it at 30, 40, 50% because you've racked up that bill again.
Interesting.
So two things can happen. Either you can just make sure that you're having that payoff like prior to both dates, or you can call to move the date closer to your cycle close date, and it will make a definite impact on the way that your credit is reported.
I think you said it about not using credit irresponsibly, and the only time you're going to get into that world where you are having a credit card bill that comes in that you cannot cover in cash, right? There is an inflection point, and everyone knows what I'm talking about. If you have $10,000 in your bank account and you have a $10,000 credit bill, you cannot afford a McDonald's cheeseburger. You don't have the money. Mm-hmm. That cheeseburger is what, $1, $2? It's $2 more than you have in cash. Yes, you can put it on your credit card, of course, but by principle is you're spending money you now do not have. And so I think that's like, for me, was the easy one to understand, was like with my business and my personal, it's like, okay, here's my personal credit card debt. Here is my total cash. If this exceeds the cash, like I cannot afford any more. Obviously, you don't even want to get to that point. But point being is that what you're saying, well, I think a lot of times people have trouble. They're like, well, shit, I can't pay the total balance off. You have to get back to a point where you can see that inflection and go, I'm way too close to the line right now. Yeah. I need to make more money, or I need to spend less. And usually,
both.
Well, both. But the thing that you have the most control of is spending less. Yeah. To start, right?
Immediately, yeah. Yeah, that is a great point. And I do know also there may be some people listening to this that maybe you're in a place where you have that really high credit card bill, or you've got, debt, loans, things like that you're working to pay off or pay down. That's also a really important piece of managing your finances, is at the very least put it in some sort of notes or spreadsheet of your own, where you can see not only the total amount, but you can also see the percentages that you are paying on the money owed, because that's a really important piece to understand too, is how you're differentiating it. I've run into people when I've just in conversation and kind of helping them with some stuff around these topics before, that think, oh, well, I have 3 credit cards. They're all close to maxed out. I made some more money. I'm going to pay off one of them completely and then keep the other 2 to pay off next month or the following. Whereas in most cases, it would have been better to divide that same larger payment you were going to make up over these 3 cards, so that you're bringing those the utilization down lower. It just is all kind of a science to it. And it should not be looked at as overwhelming. It's just really simply getting a control over it, getting a visual on it too. And I think a lot of people don't want to look their financial situation in the eyes because it's scary. You're not proud of it. It's not where you want it to be. And so we try to shy away from those things. And I think that's probably one of the largest financial mistakes that people make, is it's not good. I don't want to look at it right now. I just need to make more money and then I'll fix it later. And we all know that can get you in a world of trouble.
Yeah. Yep. I think, I mean, I'm thinking of so many things when we're talking about credit. I'm like, well, where should we take this next? Like, what do you think the next, should we talk more about credit, or do you think that covers the basics on?
I think that's probably some of the basics. I could seriously probably do hours upon hours of credit education. So maybe we'll sprinkle that in the next couple of things, because there's also the whole world of business credit that you can explore and that you should absolutely leverage, especially as someone in real estate. But I think at the very least, it's getting some credit cards, using them responsibly, building up your personal accessibility to credit. And I guess actually the last thing I would say on that is increase your credit limits as much as you possibly can. And again, that doesn't mean you're going to go out and spend it all, but there is so much power in having credit accessibility, especially when you don't need it, because there's a lot of ways that you can continue to leverage that and sort of see your credit cards as that term of OPM, other people's money. Of course, it's still yours that you have to pay, but when done properly, you can leverage that to, run ads, and before it comes in, you can pay those off with the deals that are closing from those and the leads that you're generating. One example, but there's so many ways that you can do stuff like that to really get yourself ahead if you have access to it.
I think the other thing that we could go down a rabbit hole with this too, but points, credit card points. I cannot tell you, number one, how much of my life I didn't use credit card. Well, it was not that much, but it was pretty significant upfront in my business. how much points you can earn with your credit cards, but also what those points translate into. This will be the first complete year. Well, we just passed the year, but where I put every single business expense on a credit card, and there's points attached to that, every single one of them. Not one. I mean, yeah, there's like a gas bill here and there that they wouldn't let us like use a credit card. It'd be ACH, but $50 a month. Outside of that, everything is on a credit card for the purpose of utilizing points. So that's another side of the credit card game that I think, also can sound confusing in like Chinese, but when you really start to understand what those translate to, like, hey, if you're in the industry and you want to go on one vacation, a really, really nice one, and you want to go to one, call it continuing education or industry event, right? Like an Inman conference or, something like that, those points will get you there almost for free.
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah. The points game is really powerful. We could, to your point, probably do a whole episode on that. So maybe we will, especially if you guys want to hear it, see it, definitely let us know. But moving on a little bit as we continue to talk about managing your finances, one thing that I've always loved to operate off of, I love the 21 rules of money. If you're not familiar with that, would suggest looking into those. Many of those are great to know and great to operate off of. But one of the things they talk about is an example of like a percentage rule. And there's actually so many of these. I'm curious to know if you have one that you suggest, especially for kind of beginners, of, okay, I have 100% of this income right now. How should I set aside pieces? Where should I allocate it? Knowing that, of course, it can get much more complex than that down the road. But I think one thing that can be challenging, especially for people in real estate, if you've never been in like a sales commission type position before, it can be a major high to get that first big check. Like in most cases, somebody's not going to at one time receive a check for over $10,000.
No, usually not. No.
And so when you get that, you're kind of like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. I'm the richest person in the world. You don't realize that can go away very quickly. You may not know when the next one's coming. And of course you need to, set it aside accordingly. So I'm curious to know if you have a suggested way that people sort of initially divvy some of that up to be responsible with their spending.
Yeah, for sure. Well, if you haven't already taken that $10,000 and blown it, good. But if you have, you already know that it's a pretty empty feeling afterwards. And you're like, yeah, that was literally pointless. So
there.
yeah. Oh yeah. I'm like, I don't even remember spending it. That's the worst part. Like, what happened to it? I think, well, going back to the, separating the two things, this is very important to note because I think taxes is number one. I'll explain how you can get a very bad, yearly circulation of tax problems. It's very easy to fall into. Anybody. You don't even have to be you don't have to be broke to do it. It happens, right? So if you are paying yourself, which ultimately in my opinion, you want to get your LLC. This is not financial advice, by the way. You want to get your corporation, your LLC, whatever your setup is. You want to be on payroll because what happens there is that the money you make, right? Taxes are taken out already. That is your money. That you could do whatever you want with that money. There is no repercussions. It's yours. You already paid the IRS their portion, but your business now, right, does make money. And your business is taxed on, now it passes through. We don't have to go into all that. But point being is that if you're just taking money out of your business right now and you're not on payroll, just remember that money has taxes attached to it. There are repercussions for it. So here's how you get into a bad spell is when you don't, we're going to talk about percentages, when you don't break up a proper percentage, you end up, maybe you get into a point next year where you don't have $20,000 of cash laying around that you need for your taxes. So you have two options. One, you can go find the 20 grand, or two, you cannot pay it. I'd highly recommend paying it, but here's what happens. Let's say you invested your money the right way and you took earnings and put it into stock. Those stocks had gains. You have 20 grand there. You take out the 20 grand from your stock portfolio to pay your tax bill. Well, guess what? When you take out money out of the stock market and you have a gain on it, now you have taxes on your gain. And so that's just one example how now, if you don't have enough cash to cover that, you're going to be pulling from other places, but every time you pull, you're getting taxed on that money and just turns into this snowball that can get really out of control. But back to splitting up percentages, I like to take 40 and that's taxes. 40 is taxes. I'm a little bit more on the risky side. I like to take about 20 to 30 and literally gamble it. Now I say that when I say gamble, I mean, real estate deals. I like to, that are maybe a little bit, wholesale, this, that, the other, to flip. I'll go into some like mid cap markets in New York Stock Exchange. I don't get into like penny stocks or really anything below $20 a share, but I dabble, right? And then I put and then the other side of it is just disposable income.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is 40, then about 20 to 30, and then the other, 30, 10, whatever. I just do whatever I want with it, pay my bills and, live normal life, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that for me, the most important part is it's the 40 with the taxes, because I've seen where I had that almost 6-figure tax bill come in and I was like, oh my, luckily I had it, but I was like, this is a lot. Like, are you sure this is right?
Was there a mistake on
this cannot be correct, but luckily I was making a lot of money, so I had it. But that I learned that right away. And the great part is at the end of the year, it's so awesome to have another pile of money sitting there that you don't owe. Like, you owe some of it. It's probably being conservative, 40%, but yeah. I just don't want to get into I do have assets. I do have things in the market. I don't want to have to pull from those to pay my tax bill. I've seen what that can do. But then I think just depending on, again, like your risk analysis, your risk portfolio on what you want to invest your money in, that's for me about 20 to 30% is that I just play around with. And
it's also, again, like kind of what we talked about at the beginning, it's going to come back to your goals over the next couple of years. And so what I would suggest for everyone at the very least is take obviously 100% and divvy that up accordingly. First thing, of course, should be that taxes that you set aside for that. But then outside of that, like with the remainder, whatever that percentage is for you, whether that's 60%, 70%, like how do you choose to divvy up the remaining 70%? Because so often, that whole 70% is just kind of thrown into someone's bank account and used for whatever comes up at the time. So I would be really, really clear with where those percentages go. Of course, calculate what your fixed expenses are, and you have that percentage that goes there. Are you saving for more stuff? Are you trying to invest? Are you wanting to buy a house? And set it up accordingly. And what's cool to do is that you can actually set that up with your bank in most cases. Like pretty much every major bank will allow you to set up these multiple kind of like buckets or accounts if you want to separate it into different accounts. I know some people like to do that, where when you deposit a check or you get a direct deposit into, say, your main checking account or your main business checking account, it can automatically go by percentages and put it into these separate accounts. So that was a really cool thing that I learned how to do in the beginning, and it helped me because I was definitely that person that, like, when I saw it there, I was like, oh my God, fun. It's all stuff I can do with this. When in reality, a big chunk of that was actually set aside for other stuff. And so psychologically, it was like tricking me into thinking I had more to go play around with than I really did. And so putting it actually in other places was very helpful for me while trying to learn those concepts.
You want to hear a funny story?
Let's hear
Remember
it.
the other day I was like, there was a distribution and I said, there's freaking money missing.
Yeah.
Remember I told you that?
Yeah.
Well, it's so funny that like I got on my accountant and was like, what's going on? Like, this was done incorrect. Like, how are we going to fix this? And then she says, you realize you have 30% of all your earnings going to this other account too, right? And I was like,
oh my gosh.
oh yeah, I do. And then I went and looked, and sure enough, the money was there.
Like,
and I was
wait,
like,
so what account is that?
I was like, yeah, where is it? No, it's like disregard. I knew the account, but it was just another one of those things that you set in place, and like it serves you well. It served me so well to the point where I didn't even realize I was saving money.
Yeah.
Like I genuinely forgot that I was taking 30. That's a big number. And my 30% of everything that I get paid for my business goes into a different account. But it goes back to the same thing you're talking about, is that like setting those, especially if you like, do you have a little problem with control? Like, you get a little drink. Next thing you know, your wallet opens up. Like, hey, that's just what it is.
It happens.
Put controls in place so you can make sure you're responsible with it.
One, also, I made a TikTok about this the other day, and people were like, oh my God. Exactly. That was the true response. But I was talking about this, that, money habits are like a trained and practiced habit. And just like good habits, you can also have bad habits. And as you're kind of establishing these better habits, it's important to, just the same way with like dieting. Let's say that you eat horribly, you don't work out, you're just constantly indulging, and you're like really overweight, really out of shape, really unhealthy. all of a sudden you want to flip to leading a healthier lifestyle. If you cut out every single thing you love, you're eating only rice, broccoli, and chicken and trying to work out twice a day and like all this kind of stuff, the like the potential for failure of doing that, because it's such a all the way flip to the other side, is not always going to set you up for success. I'm kind of stumbling over trying to get this out. But my point is, the same thing is true with your finances. Put small goals and allow it to compound over time, and you'll have so much more success. And so if you find that you are an impulse spender and you love to like go and online shop, or you are somewhat impulsive with certain things, I suggested that as you're creating and establishing those money habits, that you take, in the same way as everything else, a percentage of the income that you have, even if that's only a very small amount, and you actually create in your monthly, I'm not necessarily a monthly budget kind of gal, but within your parameters of your spending, and create like an impulse spending fund. And all of a sudden you've got $100 in there that you can like get that little high of going and impulse spending, and you're still being financially responsible. So those kind of things, like, understand the ability to make it work for your current lifestyle, your current habits, as you work towards being more financially responsible.
Yep, I agree. Something when you were talking is fun. I think I could sum it up pretty well. It's like, if you can't do it forever, why even start? And I think that's kind of the, like, what you were saying is like, if you can't commit to this for literally forever, like this will be the way you do, like, don't even start it, because you're just going to have to keep changing it, and it almost causes more confusion. So take those bite sizes and build up to like change over time.
Nuggets.
Yeah, nuggets. I think I have one other thing that to me just stands out particularly about managing your money. And I think we said make, manage, multiply. We're still in the management phase. A lot of our other stuff is about literally how to make hundreds of thousands of dollars as a real estate agent. Make it rain. But the other one, which sounds super basic, but it's all like, this is funny. I get true enjoyment out of this, being a little stickler. I like to either print out, and I like to get my transaction detail report. And if you don't know what that is you said the bill cycle. It is each month, right? Your monthly statement, your cycle, every transaction that happened. Now in my real estate business, there is a lot of them. Now, I mean, there's obviously like commissions, disbursement. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there. But I do that with my credit cards. I do it with my debit stuff. I rarely put anything on there anyway. It's all credit card payments, but I like to go through those every month. And I might sound like, but I truly do enjoy, I don't have a printer at this new office, but I used to print them out. I like getting a highlighter, and I like going through them and finding like, what was that? $25 to who? Interesting. And I'll set time aside in my calendar, and I'll go investigate it. The point being, though, is that it's not about the $25. It's the habit of not wasting money. It's almost like people say, do you walk by a penny or do you pick it up? Out of just concept of attracting money, you pick it up, right? So I think that, even though it sounds super like, print out your transaction sheet, fucking loser. Yeah, I'm like, hey, if I wore glasses, I would put those suckers on too, and I'd be on it. But I truly do like that. And I can't tell you, especially, actually both business and personal, you will find leakage. You will find people double charging you. You will find errors from the bank. You'll find errors from your insurance.
Leaky squeaky, baby.
You will find a lot of stuff. And, again, going back to the shavings make a pile, you'll save money, but it's also principle of watching where your money goes.
Facts.
I think that's one of those basic, start, like, I'm going to start taking this more serious, get in there. And then here's the last thing I'll say about expenses. Okay. Because in real estate, it's very easy to try to spend your way to more commissions. Like if I buy this system, if I get this lead gen, if I invest, and I've been there still doing it.
And you guys are prey. I hope you know that.
Oh yeah.
Every single one of you agents, you are the prey of the world, because everyone can sell you something that's going to promise you the world, exactly to your point.
They know exactly how to sucker money out of you, and every little pain point, they know it and they feed off of it. And so point being is that, you're buying these ads, you're buying this ad spend, you're buying leads, you're buying, mailers, whatever you're doing. And it's all to hope that you do receive more business that translates to commissions and more money, right? But when you go through, especially your business account, and just keep this in mind, that every expense, aka every dollar that's an expenditure of your business, the purpose of an expense is to generate a revenue, right? And not just $1 back, not dollar for dollar. That makes no sense. But $1 gets you how many dollars back? Mm-hmm. And you just have to be like, today, I just had to cut something in our business that, I was super hopeful for. We lost a significant amount of money on it. My fault. Got super excited. And you just have to look at it and go, I have to cut it out of principle of saying I gave it X amount of time. I gave it enough. I spent X. I have, not the dollars back. I just have to cut it. And sure, maybe someday in your business, that gap is so big of what you spend versus what you earn. Yeah, you can afford that extra $5,000 long-term investment into your market. But if you're not there yet, like don't try to spend your way out of a revenue problem.
That was great.
You want to back that up and look at if it's not generating back it up. If it's not generating a revenue, and again, every revenue can be different. If it's just, $1 spent, $2 back, not terrible. I don't know if I'd build a business around that, but $1 spent, $3, $4, $5 back. Okay, now we're talking. Mm-hmm. But I think that's crucial when looking at your business, and it's almost like the weight comes off your shoulders when you start cutting those things that are eating your bottom line every month. Yeah.
All right, so you just did your final two. I'm gonna hit them with my final two, and then we'll probably wrap her up.
Can I say one more? Oh. It's not a full explanation though.
All right.
It's just remember that every expense, every dollar you spend is I'm super passionate about it.
I'm just kidding.
Now I feel bad. No,
go for it.
Every dollar you spend is 100% reduction of your profit. Mm-hmm. And I think that also is like, if you make $20,000 a month.
He's just going on a quote fest now.
$20,000 a month net profit. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then you invest in this new tech that somebody sold you over the phone, and you did a little demo and they convinced you it's going to blow your business up. And you spend $2,000 on it that next month. That $2,000, just remember, when you spend it, that $2,000 is 100% dollar for dollar reduction of your profit. You now went from 20 to 18. And I think when you think about it that way, you become a lot more cautious at what you spend when you know it's a dollar for dollar reduction of your income.
Love it.
That's it. I'm done now, officially.
Okay.
All right. See you guys later.
No. I have two final quick ones, and then we will wrap it up because we've mentioned many times we could go down this forever. This will probably be like a 15,000 part series. So my final two, and the first one is very complimentary of, you're nerding out over your highlighter and your sheets, is I schedule in for the entire year, every single month, a financial review day. Now, it does not take me the entire day, of course, but every single day. I like to do the 15th just because I like things that are like always on the same thing. But schedule it for yourself, however it is, and actually put it in your calendar and block out the amount of time that you need to go through and do those kinds of things. So if it is printing stuff out, going with a highlighter, if it's just going through your QuickBooks and categorizing things, if it's just reviewing and paying your bills, whatever it may be, setting aside a specific day each month that you go through it is so crucial, because otherwise, and it'll also save you a lot of time in the future. Otherwise, you get towards that end of the year and maybe there's stuff that you have to go back and review, and it takes weeks and weeks and weeks, or you just keep putting it off. So I highly suggest getting ahead of things and making sure that you have a designated day every single month that you go in and review stuff. It will also give you a massive sense of relief once you start to get things, under control. And a great saying around that is what gets measured gets managed. Ooh. So the more, I know that'll be on your team meeting tomorrow, but what gets measured gets managed. So the more that we are measuring our success with our finances and the progress that we're making, or the hole that we're digging ourselves into, the more we're going to be able to manage that and reverse the damage or increase the, the production of it. So that's my first one, is the financial day. And the second one is actually one that you said, not on this podcast, but early on in knowing you, and I've always held on to it. I've somewhat done it, but you were talking about how, I think you said every 6 months you like to cancel cards.
Yeah, that's all. I think I've gotten a little bit more advanced, but yeah, I'm a basic, the fundamentals work.
Yeah. So I personally love to, not with everything, but with a lot of stuff, I love to keep my cards locked, baby. I keep my credit cards all locked because I like to get that notification that like a charge is attempting to go through. Now, obviously, I don't have that on absolutely everything, but it helps me a lot to keep those like recurring subscriptions and stuff in control. Because then you see like, oh, you know, my HBO, Netflix, Peacock, Hulu,
Amazon
YouTube
Prime.
Plus, Amazon Prime, my 15 different streaming networks that I have. Probably don't need every single one of those. Like when you see those attached, it gives you that easy reminder. So that's another little hack. If you find yourself when you do those financial reviews saying that you've got a crazy amount of like subscriptions and unknown charges, even if for a short period of time, you either cancel that card just to put yourself physically back in the space of having to like give that card to the important things that need to be paid, or you keep it locked for a bit so that you can keep that under wraps. That is a really powerful tool also to just control your spending. So those are my final two.
You like to lock yours and unlock mine.
Yes.
Credit cards.
Yeah. So it's a good thing that you can't print out your statements anymore.
There's some great relationship advice for everybody.
Yeah. Keep mine locked and,
I'll keep mine unlocked permanently. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of dabble into the financial conversations here on House of Agents. We do plan to do quite a bit more content around this topic.
Oh, yeah.
As you guys can see, it's something that we're both really passionate about. We have different perspectives on it. We have a lot of shared knowledge on it. So we're super excited to bring you guys some more financial goodness and help you manage, and multiply your money even better. So thank you guys for tuning in to another House of Agents podcast. Wherever you're listening, be sure to like it, subscribe to it, share it, comment, whatever the things you need to do are. We greatly appreciate your support, and we will see you guys next time.
See you soon.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode. We sure do appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, make sure you're subscribed to the show wherever you consume podcasts. This way you'll get updates as new episodes become available. And if you feel so inclined, please leave us a review. It is how new people find the show. Until next time, friends.